It was an interesting moment for me at the time because I really wasn't seeking someone or anyone, I should say. I just hoped if I did meet someone that they would be a positive person to meet. Everything he was saying and doing was making me fall in love with him.
Custody. A lot of people quit going, that's just how it got to be. But she keeps on fighting and it takes a lot of guts. No justice, no peace!
You two are like two immature cartoon characters.
Objection. Where's any of this evidence of this?
Order! I'm sanctioning you for $15,000.
I have a right to see my son.
This is all about a child. A poor boy born into a battle. Even with your lies, I gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I'm gonna survive, gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive. This is not justice! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No peace! No justice!
You're trying to have a judge removed.
I'll sanction her for thousands of dollars for coming to court.
How much money is Mr. K Man, Mr. E paying you and your fellow judges to keep this woman away from her child?
Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I'm gonna survive, gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I've gotta survive, gonna survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I'm gonna survive. Even with your lies.
Welcome to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. We're coming live. Welcome, everybody. Oh, I'm so glad that God gave me another day to be able to do just this. And hopefully a weekend to come. And you know what? I have to give praise. Thank you again to all my fans. All the support that you have been showing me by watching the movie Three Corners of Deception, as you just saw the trailer. So keep on watching and releasing me from the story and things that I went through. So I'm so glad, and thank you so much again for all your support. My platform is about clinical psychology, but it's about life. It's about things that happen. And I'm a person, a human being. We share that in common. I'm not perfect, and I don't act like I am, and so I have to explain my challenges and my testimonies and things that I went through or I go through. Every day is a challenge. And I have to stress that because, today you get up and you're like, oh, wow, this is great. But there is days it's not so great. I mean, I did complete some tasks that I set myself apart and I completed them. So I give myself a clap for that. But I don't know how the rest of the day is going to go. I really don't. I just try to go in it with a positive attitude. And I think that is where our challenges are. I say this because there is so much negativity around. Sorry about that. Technical issues. I mean, hey, I don't control the web. So I don't know nothing about this internet stuff. And sometimes you're great. Sometimes you just froze like that, That's life. And you know what? That is life. Sometimes it's a pause in your daily task or things that you want to complete that day, and you just get hit with a curveball and you got to figure out what you're going to do. And that's what life is all about. So, I utilize my platform to tackle negativity, positivity, things that I want us to try to focus on. I know everybody's situation is different. I know. But at the end of the day, we still have to deal with something, and we still have to get up, and we still have to deal with whatever that is for us, and with a smile. At least try to smile anyway. And that's what I try to do on my platform. I want people to understand and get a lot of things out of it. It might be you we're talking about. And maybe we're not talking about you, but maybe we're talking about a friend. Sharing is caring. So sharing the information that you've learned on my platform and giving it to somebody else who need it is great. And that's what I'm all about. So when I bring guests on the show, we talk about things that you can utilize. We talk about their challenges and things that they have went through in their life. I mean, it takes a lot for people to open up. So I'm glad that they chose to be on my platform and open up and sharing information to help you out. We may be helping you with some financial issue that you may have, emotional, family, communication, listening, whatever that may be, is something that you can get on this show. And sometimes people don't want to go and get help. They don't want to identify that they have an issue. Well, you go ahead and tune into the Dr. Meleeka Clary show, and you may find your answers on this show. So that's the glory of it. And I'm so glad that I'm able to do that. And so, with that being said, today I have an amazing guest. Actually, you know what? She's been on my show before, and not even just that. She is a actress, but she's an attorney too. But she has so many gifts. I mean, she does child's family law. She does criminal law. She's a a mediator, and there's so many gifts, and an activist. I mean, I love having her on my show, and I'm going to continue to keep on, allow she keep on wanting to participate. But before I bring my wonderful guests on, we are going to take a brief commercial, and we will be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary show. Do not go nowhere. We'll be right back, fam. Don't go nowhere. Three Corners of Deception movie is now available on Prime Video. How about that? October 14, 2023, on my 50th birthday, I am going to release this, and you guys can go ahead and help me do just that. Go see that movie. Thank you for all the support and not giving up on me. Go see that. Three Corners of Deception. Release me from all the pain and everything I've been through. Go see the movie. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for all of the support. Go see that movie. Prime Video. Prime Video. How about that? God bless you all. I love you all. It was really hard for me to do that movie sometime because at that time, because 10 years ago is what I went through. It wasn't then. So I had to take, even they say you play yourself. It's not really always easy to play yourself. You have to play yourself 10 years ago when your mind was discombobulated and you felt betrayed. You know what I mean? You felt like, life was just not it. And, not in my situation. And it is based on true events. And, unfortunately, it's about judicial deception, but it's also about romance and drama and divorce. It's something that just went to a different way. But as I changed it and went into a movie. But what's interesting about this situation, people don't understand. It's a flow technique for me. That was my release to finish this movie. Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary show on the Bold and Brave TV network, where we're coming live. Welcome back, folks. And you know what? Before we went on break, I was about to introduce you to my special guest who's been on my show numerous of times. And like I said, I'm glad to have her. And she is a actress. She is an attorney. And I think I actually stated what all these other hats that she wears. But she is also a family person too. But so come on close and welcome Attorney Kristin Szczerbik. Welcome, Kristin.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
And
As always, love it.
oh yes, and the beautiful. Did I mention that? How beautiful! Look at you in that red hair,
You're so
gorgeous girl. You're blinging.
thank you. You
You
make my
are
compliments.
blinging.
Thank you very much.
Well, you look gorgeous, and I have to say that. And the red goes, it just makes you pop. You are popping.
Gonna match the
You know what,
personality.
Kristin? You're welcome, my dear. You are so welcome. You know what? And we talk about so much, and I know I'm so glad that you agreed to be on my show again. I use you because you have so many gifts, and I think you're so informative to share information with people, and that's why I constantly want you on this show, because I know you have so much information. One thing about you have the gifts in, and we talked about family law, we talked about mediation, we talked about all the even you being an actress, we've talked about how about you, and we shared that information. But one thing I know we didn't dig in, and because this is clinical psychology and it's all related to the human mind and what people, how they actually think, and when people interpret information and what they go through. And I like to talk about something that we have in common: criminal law. And my background, criminal law. You're attorney, I'm paralegal, but I've also did a law school for a little bit, and a couple of my degrees is in criminal law. And one thing I realized is that there is still so much mental health issues regarding criminal law and surrounding. And I know there's got to be some other questions that you have to answer when you're dealing with families and their loved ones. And I want to give some basic information, but I'm going to ask you some, questions about certain things that come up on a daily basis with you, because I don't know all that is. But when I do know, that I really, really want to ask, there's people that do not understand the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. Okay, you have different classes. Okay, and do you find that in a common, that people just be like, "Oh, that's a felony," but that's really not. It's a misdemeanor. Do you get that a lot too?
Yes, well, people who haven't been part of the criminal justice system don't understand there's these different levels and different classifications. And even if they're in another state, it changes. So I may be talking to someone who lived in another state, and I start throwing out felony, misdemeanor, and I don't know what you're talking about. And we use the words every day as criminal attorneys, but we have to remember our clients don't always know what that means. Some of them have been a bit of a revolving door, so do know what it means, but not everybody. So a misdemeanor in Indiana, and this, I will say this is state specific, so this can change, but generally speaking,
Yes.
in Indiana, we talk misdemeanors, felonies, and we have different levels, and our misdemeanors are the lower level of crimes. And then it starts with felonies, and then it starts with the lowest is a level 6, then it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we also have murder. And Indiana, it's interesting, during my couple decades of being in the criminal justice system, that's actually changed. It used to be a different number of felonies. We called them A, B, C, and D. And then at one point, the whole system was revamped. We used to have also, when somebody's sentenced, they could get credit for every day they serve. They get a day of credit, assuming that they didn't do anything to destroy that ability. And that changed along the same time that we changed our level classifications. And so it's been different for the past several years. And those of us that are my age and older have been through that. And so sometimes we fall back into that and you say, oh, wait, that doesn't exist anymore. It's numbers now. But yeah, generally speaking, felony classifications, and that's determined by the state legislator. Our lawmakers determine, where that's going to be, what crimes fall under that, and they define the crimes. We're just the people who are in the court system dealing with what's already been decided is by the lawmakers as a crime and where that falls.
Mm-hmm. What about if you have a misdemeanor, and I get this question a lot. How do you determine when you can get something expunged from your record? Because you got felony, and then because you got the label theory. People did things when they were younger, and they don't want to be labeled and they want to expunge. So you got a felony versus misdemeanor. How many years can you wait, or how did that play?
Right. Now that changes again state by state. And Indiana didn't used to recognize beyond the juvenile delinquencies expungement until more recently. And we still call it expungement, but it's really truly a sealing of records as opposed to the idea of what expungement means. It's really, you're asking all these agencies to seal records. And it depends on, yes, felony and misdemeanor does matter, but it also depends which level, and it's very clearly spelled out in the statute. So I could pull up the statute and tell you each one, but for a felony, you generally are going to wait longer. However, there is something that if you qualify for an expungement, and this is not something you want to do on your own, because you get one shot at it, and if you mess it up, you don't get to go back. So this is really one of those areas where you want to have an attorney to help you to see, one, if you qualify for expungement, and two, to actually do the process. But what happens is with certain felonies, you can be eligible for that for a certain number of years. You also, but it's the time calculation starts after you've completed your sentence. If you're on probation, then it's when it's done, and they start moving forward with that. Unless you get permission, an agreement from the prosecutor of that county to do an early expungement. That is possible. And it depends. So if you did, there's a lot of little factors in there. That's why it's so important to go to an attorney. But there is such a thing as early expungement. I have had a client, we went through that process, but we had the full cooperation and agreement of the prosecutor. For example, hypothetically, it could be somebody who's never committed anything before. The thing that it was a one-off thing that they did, and the job that they need to get in the future really depends on getting an expungement earlier, and you see no chance of them reoffending. I mean, you never know, right? But there's no indicator there. And they did really good on their probation. A lot of times it's a possibility. It's not a guarantee, but possible. One of the other things too about the difference between misdemeanor and felony, there are some other rights that go away with felony in Indiana and sometimes nationally. So that could be, depending on what you got going on in your case, your rights to possess firearms. It can also impact your right to vote, and it can impact the type of job you can have in the future. So a lot of times if someone's getting a lower level felony, such as a level 6, it's important to look at, can we later get that reduced to a misdemeanor? So if you're working out some sort of resolution by a plea agreement, and if they qualify, that's something their attorney would want to ask for. Hey, can we have, we call it alternate misdemeanor treatment. And if they're qualified, depending on the negotiations, that's something they successfully complete probation. They can petition for that with the court and say, I want this reduced to a misdemeanor, and it can restore some of those rights. Now, in domestic violence situations, it may not restore all of the rights depending on what was going on with their gun rights, so to say, but the other rights can be restored. And if you are dealing with a very specific situation with gun rights, there are specialized attorneys in that as well. There's the whole national federal laws play into some of this with the gun rights. So you have to be careful of how the interplay happens with that.
Wow. That's interesting that you say that, because, some people don't understand what their rights are. But one thing that I got out of that, even if they want to expunge a felony or misdemeanor, they will need to have an attorney. I mean, it's good to have an attorney draft the paperwork and stuff like that too, and argue that. Is that correct?
Well, it's not so much the argument as, because anybody can, there's not a whole lot of argument to it unless you're doing an early expungement or some specialties, but it's really knowing the type of paperwork and which paperwork to file, because you have to file with so many agencies. And if you miss one, then you've messed up something, or you don't realize the record. So when someone's arrested, there's an arrest record. Maybe the Department of Child Services was involved, and that's a whole nother process as well. Just because a criminal thing may get expunged doesn't mean the Department of Child Services is going. That's a whole different ballgame. So those are things people don't think about.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know that like that, but now I do. You know what? We're going to take a brief commercial and we will be right back with the beautiful Kristin, attorney Kristin. All right. Don't go nowhere, fam. We'll be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. Don't go nowhere. It was because of me having a voice and saying something about what had happened to me, because I can't believe it. I can't believe that these individuals put their good name and their reputation on the line just to hurt somebody because they spoke up. Yes, see, that's what happens when you speak up. I get it, but I'm not fearful because of that. Even though I went through a lot and still go through a lot of things, I got God on my side, and I feel like if that is not enough, then I don't know what it is. Because I'm still standing and I'm still telling my story, and I'm gonna keep on telling stories, and that is why I like film. Because film, you'll be able to express things that you went through and experiences and people. You know, you'll be amazed what you can do. I'm a human being, but I'm not perfect. And I have my own flaws, but I'm working in progress. And if you're trying to change something, you're able to do it. You have the power, you have the key to your own success. And with that being said, I'm just glad that I'm able to do this and share other people's testimonies. And I'm so glad that there's many guests that I've already had on the show that have expressed their, challenges or what they've been going through or went through in their life. And I say that it's because they're not perfect. So it's good that they express that. Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network, where we're coming live. We are still with the attorney Kristin. Come on, girlfriend, get back in here.
I'm here. I'm here. I didn't go
That's
anywhere.
right. Woo-hoo. You know what, Kristin? It's just a light. And I know that we are touching this heavy topic of criminal law, and no one likes to hear it, but people need it because there is situations that people get themselves in, and it may not be as drastic as they think it is, but then there is situation is very drastic. And I say that because there's some people's family that is bringing down, they got to go down this, I don't want to say rat hole, but when a family member or somebody does something, your family comes with you, and people don't understand the psychology of that. You know what I mean? The negative impact that when someone of a loved one is in trouble with the law, you're all kind of sharing that burden, and that's one thing that I have to ask you. And do you find yourself educating the family when it comes to, the criminal law system? Because let's say if somebody had like a drug, well, I don't know, offense, and they did something drug related, or maybe even invasion of privacy or reckless driving or doing something that would impact towards a negative, but your family is involved too because either they have to hire an attorney or they have to go to court and show support. Have you felt yourself having to be a psychologist towards that area? And I say that because I know you're a counsel, but criminal law is something that not a lot of people know a lot about, especially when it comes to the legal jargon of it.
Interesting how you word that. I like that. But yes, the family, loved ones, people who care about that person are in their life, do come along as a package with your client, and they are calling you as well, wanting to know what's going on. And of course, you always have to get permission from your client first. Who can I talk to? And you try to streamline one person ideally, because we have hundreds of clients at any given point. Most attorneys do. And so if every single family member is calling on the same person, but you want them to be involved if they want to be involved, because that family support's only going to help your client in the future. But yes, educating them as well on a lot of things and their impact and their role, and helping to understand some of the dynamics that come along with why their particular loved one may be in this situation and what they're facing. And they always just want to help. They want to help. What can I do? What can I do? How can I get them out of jail? How can we, if we get them out, get them treatment, get them this, get them that? And they just don't know necessarily the tools. So then they look to us. What can we do? What can we do? Can you keep me informed what's going on? So yes, the word being a psychologist, I think as long as we're talking about it, not in the licensed psychologist term, yes, because there is a lot of social and psychological dynamics that go on in criminal law, well, all aspects of law. But criminal law, one of the biggest things that we have to deal with our clients is mental health issues as a base as to why some of them are acting, behaving in the way that they are. And then drug use, drugs, substance, alcohol use. And in some aspects, it can be a chicken or an egg, or they just go hand in hand. You know, is someone self-medicating through drug and alcohol use, or did the extensive drug use then lead to mental health illness, or did they just have them at the same time? Usually you're trying to have them assessed and evaluated for both things and figure out how you can address to move forward. But I encourage families to support their loved ones when they're coming to court and trying to be a part of the process, because sometimes you're going to get most of the time, you're going to get a better resolution. And sometimes that client, even if they know what they want to do, they'll say, well, let me talk to my family. Let me talk to my dad. Let me talk to my girlfriend. And so, you know, if you haven't talked to that person that they're then going to talk to and they don't understand what's going on, they may come back to you with something that isn't best for them because they're not fully informed of the situation. So anytime a client says, can you keep my mom or so-and-so involved? We do. And then you see them, they'll come to court, they advocate, they're there. So that's something that's important to do.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think that when you show that's a family mechanism together, you show the support. And I think at that time, people need that because they are already depressed on the situation. I understand people are not perfect. We make mistakes. But then you said something to me that registered. When we have a client or offended that actually committed a crime, they could be a person that is committing a crime because they are a drug user. And it's not always the fact that they had that intent to commit the crime, like they really wanted to hurt somebody. They really wanted to, feed their addiction. That could be the case too. And how do you get that person the help? And I know they're a repeat offender, but are we really tackling down on why this individual is committing crime? Because I think that's something that needs to been, I know you have that, you deal with stuff like that. You got a repeat offender you keep on seeing, but we keep on seeing them because are they getting the help they need? Are we getting the treatment? Because if I have an addiction, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to feed that urge. And I don't really care of anything else. I'm breaking the law. Yeah, okay. But I'm also getting high and I'm feeling great. And that's something I realized that in the criminal case, in the judicial system, that's what we need to be fixing. And I know you got a wonderful answer for me. And you know what? On that note, we are going to take a brief commercial. And please hold on to that thought because I want you to answer that. We'll take a brief commercial with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV Network. Do not go nowhere. You guys need to hear this. We'll be right back with Attorney Kristin, the wonderful. Because you mentioned and said, I believe in God and I surrendered. And when someone is addicted to something, it's a challenge. It's tough. What was that moment that you said, I can't do it anymore?
Well, in book number 2, I talk about how I've been to prison. My prison number is 589931. I'll have that number for the rest of my life. It's just not a functional number. I talk about how I was delivered from a homosexual lifestyle. I talk about how I had a man that left me for another man. I talk about how I had a man that was HIV but never told me, but I'm sitting here today. I don't have AIDS, HIV. And I have a lot of people always say, your immune system was so strong. No, that was the blood of Jesus that covered me.
Hello, all. 3 Corners of Deception movie is now available on Prime Video. How about that? October 14, 2023, on my 50th birthday, I am going to release this, and you guys can go ahead and help me do just that. Go see that movie. Thank you for all the support and not giving up on me. Go see that 3 Corners of Deception. Release me from all the pain and everything I've been through. Go see the movie. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for all of the support. Go see that movie. Prime Video. Prime Video. How about that? God bless you all. I love you all. Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. Welcome back, fam. We are still with attorney Kristin. Come on, girl.
Hello.
All right. Yeah. Hello. So, you know what, Kristin, before we went on break, we was talking about addictions and treatment. Are we doing better in the judicial system, or, how do you tackle that? Because like I said, you got repeat offenders and they're coming back, and what are we doing?
Well, what you raise is really the conundrum that we deal with every day in criminal law is, are we just dealing with the behavior, or are we trying to get to the root of that to avoid that revolving door? And some states, some counties, some courts, some areas are better at it than others just because of the availability of resources. But yes, I find that when we have a case where we have a court, an attorney, defense attorney, prosecutor, everybody is looking at this for how do we get to the root of this to prevent this again on top of whatever punishment that they're getting, you're going to have a better result. And like I said, some areas have more resources available. And if you have an attorney on a case, they should be looking for those resources for you that are going to best get you help. Even if it's not court ordered, if it's a sober living, some sort of other treatment, anger management, all of these things can help the individual so that they can try to get back on track. I tell people, because they'll get in jail and they get cleaned up a little bit with some of the drugs out of their system, and then they feel, I can go back out, I can do this, and they don't have the tools yet. I said, I get it. And they don't remember the thing that they're being accused of, or some of them do, and they're like, that's not normally me. I needed to get whatever I had to do, and I was just high and I don't know. And I said, well, let's try to get you to be the best you that you can be. And that's going to involve making the hard choices now so that when you are out, you have those tools and you aren't going right back to that. And that's difficult because relapse is so high. It's just so prevalent when we're talking about this. And the goal is to consistency, and not just stopping because the court ordered 30 days of an intensive program or 90 days of an intensive program. It needs to continue. That's one of the hardest parts to make a client see or their family see. And that has to come from an internal motivation because it has to go beyond a court order. Got to be internally motivated and then get the tools so that you can use those tools to change. Because some people come to me and they're like, I've been through all the programs. Some people haven't been to a single program. You see the gamut, and it just depends. So getting the right help for the right person, the right resource to the right person can be key. And then how they view that. And sometimes I find how a judge talks to a client, how a private or public defender talks to a client can change their trajectory of not just how it is in that case, but how it is in their life. And I have seen testimony, and you can call it, I say testimony because we're in court, but sometimes to me, it's not just testimony because we're in court. It feels like testimony from the spiritual sense, because they will have a conversation that we allow them to have with the court about a certain situation. And you'll hear them say key phrases of things that people said to them that either took them down or took them up. And I try to remember that. Some days it's hard to remember that, but I try to always remember that, because sometimes our influence, whether we believe it or not, can be pretty big on a client and what they're doing forward. You had mentioned family. I have definitely have clients who don't have that family support. And it hits me harder when they're younger clients, and juvenile, of course, the hardest, but then even those that are just into adulthood and they're just young men and women that don't have that family support. And I guess it's the mother in me, I don't know, tries to reach out to them and provide something to that in comments. And I have found that some of those people have later in life, contacted me again, or I've ran into them at Walmart or ever, and they've said things that I had no idea what I was saying to them at the time made an impact. So you never know, and you should always treat it as what you're saying could have an impact on that person if you're the attorney, the judge. And I had one person say to me, who I ran into years later, that what the judge said to them that day at sentencing changed their life. And
Wow.
that hit me because that's a good judge. they got it. They understood, and they weren't like really not. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna baby you and be nice. I mean, they were just honest, and they were so honest about it, and then gave the encouragement that person really took it to heart, and then used it later in their life. So that's an example of a true understanding and perspective of our impact and what we're really looking at, which are humans that are dealing with multiple things. They didn't just act, what led them there. And I think that's the important step in the process, is understanding that and treating it just like you said.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think that when we have a better influence on one person, we can instate things and we say things. People do remember that. Just like if you was a parent and you said, you never amount to anything. You think that person's not going to remember that? They are. And so if a judge or a lawyer or anybody say something to you and it's towards a negative or a positive, yeah, they're going to remember it. Because especially if a person is abusing drugs, that is key things that they don't let go. And they just go deeper and deeper and deeper into their addiction because they feel it's a depressing moment why people use. They always hold on to this one thing that they're putting definition to and they're fueling it. I mean, they're putting gas on, they're lighting it up. And it's always just that remembrance of that situation that gets them to go downhill. So I always have to say, and I'm so glad that you highlighted that what we say can impact a person's decision making, going towards a positive or a negative. And that is what we are all about right now, because that's where we're at. I mean, that's where we're at. Because people are hearing more negativity than positivity in this world. And I think that goes into the criminal law and the judicial system, but that's every day. We're not hearing anything and we're not willing to help either. That's another thing. They get over it. I think we need to change that perspective. And I can go on about this because I am going to change it up a little bit. There is something I do want to mention, something that really gets me. You got attorneys that you have some attorneys, if you got a case and there's a person who's a drug offender, they're selling drugs. Okay, we know they're making money. They're doing things. But is that a way to say, okay, we're going to take advantage of this individual because that's what they got caught in, they have money? Are we going to milk it all away? Because I've seen systems like that. I've had clients, I spoke to people and they gave me history and they have been looking for, an attorney to take care of this situation. But when the money went dry, they had a plea bargain that was like plea out to this charge when they didn't have no more money. So I kind of felt like, why would you plead to that? But they didn't feel that there was any other resource for them. They didn't feel that they had any other options because the money was gone. And that's what their options were, plea. And I think I mentioned to several people, I think it was the attorney you was dealing with at the time, because I would never have said that. What are your intake? Oh, you know what? Before you answer that, girl, we gonna take a brief commercial, and we will be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. Do not go nowhere. We need to hear this. We'll be right back. It was because of me having a voice and saying something about what had happened to me, because I can't believe it. I can't believe that these individuals put their good name and their reputation on the line just to hurt somebody because they spoke up. Yes, see, that's what happens when you speak up. I get it, but I'm not fearful because of that. Even though I went through a lot and still go through a lot of things, I got God on my side, and I feel like if that is not enough, then I don't know what it is. Because I'm still standing and I'm still telling my story, and I'm gonna keep on telling stories, and that is why I like film. Because film, you'll be able to express things that you went through, and experiences and people. You'll be amazed what you can do. I'm a human being, but I'm not perfect. And I have my own flaws, but I'm working in progress. And if you're trying to change something, you're able to do it. You have the power, you have the key to your own success. And with that being said, I'm just glad that I'm able to do this and share other people's testimonies. And I'm so glad that there's many guests that I've already had on the show that have expressed their, challenges or what they've been going through or went through in their life. And I say that it's because they're not perfect. So it's good that they express that. Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Claire Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. Well, we're going live. All right, come on in here, Attorney Kristin. We're wearing this hat today, girl. We're wearing this hat. We got to get
Yes,
it.
you are.
Now,
You're serious today.
that's right. We are getting to
We're
it.
working
Now,
it.
we were getting into it. We're having too much fun on here. Before we left, we was talking about plea bargain, running out the money. The client or offended is feeling like lost cause. Where are we at with that? I mean, I know that's an individual situation because I'm
Right.
not throwing every attorney under the bus. That is a particular, but I do hear a lot of that.
Right. And let's be real. In every profession, there's good, bad, better, worse, right? And so are there some people who may be out there more about the dollar than others? Of course. That's anywhere you go.
Yes.
And
Pretty much.
But the reality is those people are available. And if there are, we've discussed in other episodes what to do if you aren't getting the proper ethical representation that you need. There's also public defenders available. It's supposed to be, but people have representation available to them, whether they're paying for it or have a public defender appointed. But something you touched on, which is such a big subject, so I'll only talk on it for a short while that we have here, but plea bargaining, plea deals. So one way to resolve a case other than a jury trial or getting a dismissal or something to that effect is through the process of plea negotiation. And that's where it's kind of like a contract. You have an agreement between the prosecutor and the defense that this is how we're going to resolve this case. And what's difficult is there are so many considerations that go along into that. One is, what's the strength of the state's case? What's the strength of our defense? We can't predict what a jury might do or a judge might do, but we have to think, well, where are we at? How strong is it? How weak is it? What do we have to argue? Another factor is circumstance. You had mentioned some people feel they have no other way to go with this. And the reality is we don't know, true 99.9% of the time, we don't know if our client really did something or not. And they may say one thing and maybe a false confession and they didn't do it. They may say they didn't, but they know that they did. But, that's not something we push. We look at evidence. We're evidence-based. And then that decision of whether or not to resolve a case through negotiated plea, that is the one that's always left with the client. And that's how our ethical rules are. We get to determine strategy as attorneys, how we're going to go about. But that final decision, that's the client's decision. And sometimes we don't know why they make that final decision. Maybe in their heart of hearts, they know something we don't know, and they feel that is the best for them. But I have certainly sat on the fence where I think it's an amazing offer, an amazing way to resolve the case, and the client says, no, okay, we got to go with it. I've been on the side of the fence where I'm like, man, I don't think this is a good offer. And my client wants to take it. Yeah. Really? But it's their decision, no matter how I feel. And I hate when they say, what would you do, Ms. Szczerbik? What would you do? I said, I cannot tell you what I would do because I feel that influence is so strong that they would do what I say what I would do. But how could I know? I'm not in their shoes. I can only advise them of strengths, weaknesses, strategy, what the options are. Are they, the other thing too is another consideration is making sure we're not setting them up for failure. When you're talking about some of the individuals here with which is majority of them, mental health issues, addiction issues. Like I said, this takes time. I mean, you're talking about individuals whose brain chemistry has changed either because of mental health or drug and substance use. So they maybe feel good in that moment, but it's a long-term solution that is needed. So if we're setting them up with no help, or especially if they don't have family support, and we're setting them up for that, we're setting them up for failure. Then it's going to be a probation revocation. They'll be right back in. They'll be at Department of Corrections. So those are also considerations. Is the client really committed to making this happen the way we have it structured? And I have heart-to-hearts with them, my clients. I said, look, I don't want you back here. I want to see you at Walmart. I don't want to see you here. And so are you really going to do this? How are you committed to this? Tell me where do you see yourself a year from now, 2 years, 5 years? Are you on probation? Are you back in DOC? What are we doing? So those are real conversations that a good attorney should be having with their clients. But ultimately, it's their decision. And sometimes do people make a decision even if they feel they didn't do it because it's a way to get out of jail?
Wow.
I can't promise that that's what they did, but I certainly feel like I have seen that in this system. And I'd be lying, and I think most attorneys would be lying if they said they haven't seen that. Because that's, one of the first things. How do we get out? How do we get out? Well, let's talk about your case. And has there been a time when, they sign and you don't know if they really did it, and maybe the evidence doesn't feel that strong, and they do. So, but in order for their plea to be taken, the judge has to feel there's a factual basis for that. And so if they do come in and say, I don't know, maybe a judge isn't going to accept that plea. So they still have to say yes. So whether or not they believe that yes, we don't know, but that's still the client who's been informed and saying, yes, I did this crime. And that can be difficult if you're looking at a case thinking, man, the evidence is not really showing that. And that's what they want to do. It can be tough.
Yes, and I agree with that because you just don't know. And I think for the offender, they probably just scared. They don't know the law. They don't know which way to go. They just know, because I always hear the height of their crime. Oh, you can get 10 years for this. That's what's sticking in their mind. Huh? If they go to jury, you know what I mean? A jury trial. And so pleading before you get there sounds more attractive than getting the max. That's what I'm always hearing from a lot of individuals in that situation.
Yes. And that's our job, is to make sure that they are informed. We don't want someone to make a decision that's just, I didn't do it, but I want to get out of jail, or I'm so afraid of the consequence and I didn't do it. And, we want them to make an informed decision, even if we don't agree with the decision, that here's what you're facing. Here's the strengths, the weaknesses, like I said. And, it's tough, but as long as they're informed, that decision lies with them. The worst thing to go through is for a client not to be informed. I really disagree and don't like it when I see a client come in on certain cases before they've ever talked to an attorney and they said, I did it, I want to plead guilty. And I'm like, okay, great. If you want to do that, you can do that, but you should really talk to an attorney first. You can have one appointed for free so that you're doing that knowingly and not coming back and saying, well, I didn't understand. They might have even still been under the influence of drugs, even if they say they weren't. A judge will ask that. They'll say, are you under the influence of any substance or alcohol that changes your understanding or thinking today, that kind of thing. But we don't always know that when it's instant, when they're at their initial hearing and they just want to get out and they're going to say certain things. So you got to be careful. I strongly advocate for representation from the initial hearing on, so that rights are protected, whether it's to plead guilty or not guilty. Your rights should be protected, and you don't know what they are, and it's hard to make that decision without someone to inform you.
Wow. That is, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Here's something. We're going to take a break, but I want you to think about this. I know you do both. You're a private attorney and you do court-appointed attorney work, right?
Yes.
Public, is it public? Yeah.
Public, yes.
Okay, public. Okay. I want you to give me a little bit of difference about that too, because I know when people say, "Hey, I'm going to get a court appointed," they don't feel very high about that. They're not happy, and I think it because we have some bad definitions. So on that note, we are going to take a brief commercial. We will be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Claire Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. Don't go nowhere because we need these answers. Don't go nowhere, fam. Be right back. It was an interesting moment for me at the time because I really wasn't seeking someone or anyone, I should say. I just hoped if I did meet someone that they would be a positive person to meet. Everything he was saying and doing was making me fall in love with him.
Over custody. A lot of people quit going, that's just how it got to be. But she keeps on fighting and it takes a lot of guts. No justice, no peace!
You two are like two immature cartoon characters.
Objection. Where's any of this evidence of this?
Order!
I'm sanctioning you for $15,000.
I have a right to see my son.
This is all about a child. A poor boy born into a bad. Even with your lies, I gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I'm gonna survive, gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive. This is not justice.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
No peace, no justice!
You're trying to have a judge removed.
I'll sanction her for thousands of dollars for coming to court.
How much money is Mr. K and Mr. G paying you and your fellow judges to keep this woman away from her child?
Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I'm gonna survive, gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I've gotta survive, gonna survive. Said I'm gonna survive, gonna survive. Even with your lies.
Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Claire Show on the Bold and Brave TV network where we're coming live. We are still with the nice, wonderful, beautiful attorney Kristin. Come on back here.
Hello.
Daddy. You know, it's always a pleasure to have you on my show, and you give out such a great presence, and I have to say thank you again because the information that you give is informative, it's positive, and I hope a lot of people, well, actually I know a lot of people get benefits because I get emails all over and they love the I have to say this. Okay, you've been labeled as the redhead. I love when the redhead gets on the show.
It's better than a lot of other labels I've been given. So
Okay. But it's beautiful. They say redhead attorney. They actually do put that in emails. So I know there's some people watching and hearing their, cars or whatever, because we're all over here. But they love when you come on. They're getting information. They utilize it. So it does help people. If you don't know, I'm gonna have this express that to you. You are helping people. Before we want to break, I know we got a short time. I want you to elaborate on the difference between a court-appointed lawyer and a private attorney. Elaborate a little bit.
Well, technically, it should only be that you're paying versus you pay a very small amount later on when the case is resolved, $250, $50, depending on the case, versus taking a retainer and going up front. Now, some people do believe there is an advantage to private over public defender, and it really comes down to the attorney, to be quite honest. And not everybody is just a public defender. Not everybody is just a private attorney. People can be both. And that situation where I am both, I hate to burst people's bubble, but when they say, I want to hire you, I don't want a public defender. And I tell them, I say, well, you know what? I am a public defender. I'm both. They go, oh, well, how does that work?
Wow.
It really comes down to the attorney. And sometimes the resources that are available. So if someone has the monetary resources to hire a private attorney, and maybe they're also then hiring a lot of other experts and things, but you can also ask for that through the courts as well if that's necessary, and they feel comfortable with that. If not, they get a public defender. It shouldn't be any different. Resources, however, should still be there. And Indiana is interesting. Most of the counties, but not all, have adopted this qualification standard that comes through the Indiana Public Defender Commission, because caseload is a big deal. Public defenders can have a much higher caseload than private attorneys because you have more control as a private attorney how many cases you get. Well, they recognize that that's really what's going on with some of the issues when people are complaining about public defenders, because their caseload is so high, they can't communicate enough with their client, and those are the complaints that they get. So they have put things in place in Indiana so that certain funding that goes back to those counties only happens if those qualifications are met. So it limits caseloads. It requires that they have certain resources, such as investigator available for so many attorneys. It requires other things being available, a certain number of support staff, things like that. And that's important because that increases the level of care in the legal system that somebody can get. So they may be having appointed to them somebody who's really experienced, really qualified, but if they don't have the time, what can they do? So this is why that system's been put in place to help make sure that happens. And most of the counties in Indiana go along with that. Some don't. They've opted out. And most of those, some of those are smaller counties. And I happen to work in one of those. And I work in one that is opted in and one that is opted out. And I see quality representation being given to clients in both avenues, because it's respected that this is what you need to do. So people can dog us all we want and say, I don't want to vote, but sometimes they're getting one on a private case because that's what I do. And I'm going to treat it the same to the best of my ability.
So shame. So there goes the label theory, thinking that you're getting it. You're not getting a court appointed, but she does both. So you've been tricked. Not intentionally, but hey, and as I think we mentioned before, you've seen a situation that another private attorney did drag the case out, and then when you got it was slam dunk. You did it, and boom, it moved on. I think we need more examples like that for people like you, and maybe that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Yes, I really think it has more to do with the attorney, because that can flip flop as well, and it really does. But if you are, and the reality, public defenders, we are underpaid drastically for the type of work we put in. When you actually put our hours together that we really put in, not just what you see at the office or in court. This is sad to say, but I think it was in 2008, I put this calculation together, and it turned out to be like $2.50 an hour. I put way too many hours in it. So, but you can't think like that. You think, and people don't, because we're dedicated to helping people. And this is a service industry, a helping industry. Public defense is about helping. And yes, we take private cases and we may treat them the same. And maybe some of those are reduced fee as well. But we went to law school. We learned a lot. We have a lot of experience and training and ability to do this. And it's okay to get paid to do what we do. And it's okay to give it for free and reduced rate, because we believe in what we're doing, as long as we still give it our best. And that's what attorneys try to do. And that's why that system is in place, to make sure that we can do that with the hours and caseload and things like that.
Wow. You know what? As a true person, I love to hear that you try to do the best, because you did go to school for all this. You wanted to help people. And I think that runs right into psychology. You want to help. And that's why I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. I want to help people. I mean, not take your money. No. And I feel like God would take care of me, whatever way that is and how he want to do it. And feel blessed in that area. So I'm very appreciative of your services. And we're going to see more of Attorney Kristin because she's going to come back. But I do want to say thank you again. And they can probably find you on the web. You're looking for Attorney Kristin. She's all over the web as well. Plus, she's in the wonderful movie Three Corners of Deception. You could go see her acting skills. So go and see that movie. Thank you again, Kristin, for being on my platform. And I really appreciate it. Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. The spread hair is everywhere. They can find me wherever.
That's right. You are. And you know what? If you're looking for Dr. Meleeka Clary, I am you can go to my website, drmeleekaclary.com, or you could just Google me. I'm all over my social medias. It's really involved with my, so you can find all those platforms. Can't even talk today. Anyway, you can find me. I'm available. Let's just put it that way. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Bold and Brave TV network. I really appreciate you all, guys and women, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend to come and enjoy today, one step at a time, one day at a time. I love you. I love you, your mind and your heart. So take care of yourself, and God bless you all. Enjoy.
You've been watching the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show. Tune in next week as Dr. Meleeka will help you shift towards a better life. But this show doesn't stop there. She'll provide helpful tips regarding surviving the entertainment industry and the judicial system with practical information. Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, here on the Bold Brave TV network.